Hello, my name is Jacob, and you're watching my show about literature. And only literature. As a work of literature, Kim ostensibly operates as a coming-of-age tale of adventure with prominent overtones of spiritual redemption and the question of cultural identity as seen through the eyes of the titular character. Kipling uses the backdrop of colonial India to amplify these aspects by juxtaposing his characters against a melting pot environment of races, creeds, and religions. In this way, they find themselves at odds with foreign ways of life that challenge their beliefs and assist their development. It cannot be understated that Kipling and India are inseparable, and the intimacy of his writings are proof enough. Even though Kipling spent a sporadic 12 years in the country, it was enough to make an impression that would guide his works for the remainder of his life. When we compare the early life of the author with that of Kim, for example, we find many distinct parallels. Kim's metamorphosis from a Lahore street ruffian to educated sahib and subsequent regression is a perfect mirror of Kipling's childhood. He lived in Bombay until the age of 5 when he and his siblings were shipped off to England, which marked the beginning of a very miserable period in his life. Apparently, his caretakers were very harsh and callous. We find that Kim experiences a remarkably similar circumstance when he fulfills his prophecy of finding the Red Bull on the green field and is, much to his dismay, shipped off to a military school where he endures a great amount of misery at the hands of the students and teachers. Kipling spares no expense in empathizing with his literary doppelganger when he writes in chapter 6, "The day dragged on to its weary end. When he wished to sleep, he was instructed how to fold up his clothes and set out his boots, the other boys deriding. Bugles waked him in the dawn. The schoolmaster caught him after breakfast, thrust a page of meaningless characters under his nose, gave them senseless names, and whacked him without reason. Kim meditated poisoning him with opium borrowed from a barrack sweeper, but reflected that as they all ate at one table in public, this was peculiarly revolting to Kim, who preferred to turn his back on the world at his meals. The stroke might be dangerous." And while I doubt that Kipling went so far as to consider killing his caretakers, there is certainly an unmistakable sense of loathing that pervades Kim's attitude towards his quote-unquote education. Like Kim, the author constantly yearns to be set free into his true home, the bosom of India. And what joy he must have felt to see the shore of that long unseen country, where gods spring up like heads of grain, and a great ocean of people from all over the world descend and traverse and make pilgrimage to every holy rock and river in the land. Where superstition and logic have somehow taken up as strange bedfellows, where nations conspire just below the surface of things in a great game. This was the India that Kipling knew and loved. And somehow he managed to contain it all in a novel that speaks volumes of a land that in many ways still resembles the romanticism and adventure of Kim. Only these days, India is truly a free country, one that is free from the yoke of colonialism. But that's a discussion for another day. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe to my channel. My next video will be covering the aspect of British colonial rule over India. Peace!